Alrighty, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Final Fantasy Randomizer Winter 2024 Rando Marathon, supporting the South Carolina Fighter Fighters Burned Children's Fund. We have been doing fantastically with donations so far, and we would love for y'all to keep going with that. We are just about to get started with the Crystalis Randomizer as a three-person race between Mashima, Shofu Kamachi, and Just Chris. We are going to be going live with that in just a moment with Code Gorilla and Axeman on commentary. Before we do that, though, there is another donation to. Oh, okay, never mind. Three more donations to talk about. Holy cow. Sorry, two of them literally just came in. Okay, so first one is $50 from Code Gorilla that says, "Look, I'm here for the runners to suffer a little. Trust me, chat, this is the one you want to see." And given Code's comment in chat just a moment ago, I assume that money should be put toward the Sword of Water in the final tower.
Yes,
Speaking
that's
of
correct.
Speaking of Sword of Water, thank you. We have $125 from Nathonic, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, that says, "Put this to Water Sword on Crystalis." And then Mashima donating $25 said, "Safety donation for Sword of Wind," which I don't think is safe anymore. So I'm going to let the trackers figure out the math on that one. I'm going to take a minute to figure out the math on how many hats I need to put on my head because I think I'm at probably 4 now. So new pictures shall be coming in momentarily, but I will go ahead and leave it to the commentary team to get everybody started on this Crystalis race. So go ahead and try not to die too much.
Good evening, everyone. I am Code Gorilla. I'm joined by the Axeman, and we are here to do commentary for this Crystalis randomizer race. Axe, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Cool. I'm gonna get the
And
dates
yeah,
up
I'm
here so
excited
we
to
can
see
get
this
things
race
started
too.
real quick. And I'll
Yeah.
give a quick 3, 2, 1 countdown when we get to that point, and we'll get started and start talking about the settings that we're going through here. All right.
Yeah. This randomizer has an amazing array of like flags that you
3,
can give it.
2, 1, go. Go. Okay, a little bit of
And
stream delay, but
was it Mashima that picked out these flags? Because they are just a gem of flags here.
yeah, I think it was Mashima that set up this flag set. It's a good time. Oh, what's in these flags? I'm trying to remember because I was busy this month and I played them once, but
I think it's something about sitting in the cryotube for
yes, our runners did
this
mention that they were
happens.
going to meme a little bit here and sit in the cryotube for a hot minute at the start of the seed. But
And I don't know if Mashima's stream is just delayed or if he actually is waiting this long, but yeah, that's
in any
he's got it
case,
even further.
we're off right off the bat. So these flags, a lot of the goal of these flags, as I recall Mashima putting it, is to make the progression in the game actually fairly vanilla. We don't normally we would add in an extra cave and leaf that would open up the game a bit more. We're not having that in these flags. You still need both a sword and the corresponding orb to be able to break walls like you do in vanilla. Basically, there's going to be a lot of things that are vanilla, but still a lot of things that are randomized. And the other key thing is pretty much all the glitches are enabled. So definitely get used to seeing some glitches in here.
So in the vanilla game, you have to use the level 2 charge level for your sword in order to blow away walls or make ice bridges. And in the randomizer, we actually changed that at some point, and so that you could actually just blow away the walls with the level 1 blast of your sword. And as you can see, we just got a sword. We didn't start out with a sword, for one thing. And there's no sword. There's no swordless mode in this game, so you need that sword to like really do much of anything. Oh, Chris he's getting poisoned by this enemy. He's trying to get stoned to get it to overwrite his poison.
Yeah, something to note about status effects in this game is you can only be affected by one status at a time. So if you you'll see runners sometimes will, if they get poisoned or if they get paralyzed, which are permanent status effects that are pretty hampering, sometimes you'll see them get attempt to intentionally get petrified, because petrification just goes away after a little bit on its own, and then all your statuses are gone.
Chris eventually giving up on getting hit with the stone beam and just taking a reset. He didn't go that far because there's a checkpoint system where certain spots where you like transition, and it can become a checkpoint where you kind of have this not real save. Oh no, he's getting paralyzed again. Yeah, so the checkpoint, you can actually reset and go straight back to the that checkpoint. So the reset, you don't actually have to save your game in order to take advantage of those checkpoints.
Now, worth noting, one of the things they found very early on in the sealed cave here are the speed boots, which are just going to be a speed increase for basically the rest of the seed. If you're in a race situation like this, you're basically only going to switch out that piece of equipment for combat, for boss fights. We also found the Sword of Water, after getting our Orb of Thunder to break the wall in the eastmost room of Sealed Cave, and that orb is also going to let us get all the way through Sealed Cave. One thing you might have noticed is we're actually using a flag called Oops All Mimics, where every chest is replaced by a mimic, and to get the item inside the chest, you have to defeat the mimic. So hope you're used to fighting those.
Yeah, it's they're not too hard if you can get them kind of knocked up against the ceiling, and you just sort of keep banging them. The enemies, any enemy actually, if you can get them next to the wall and just keep stabbing them, they sort of get stun locked. Although some enemies that have projectile attacks might still get like a projectile in on you. So we saw that there are thunder walls in this cave, and we got the Sword of Thunder, and we got the Ball of Thunder, which means we can actually blow away those walls. And so Sho was actually the first one through this cave, finishing off the boss. Everyone else had some sort of status effect and ended up having to take a bail on this cave. So Sho, the first one getting through here, he's got a lead right now.
Yep, absolutely. What we'll probably see soon, assuming Sho remembers, is one of the first meme incentives that we donated for. We're gonna free ski free. So in the bar in Bryn Mawr, which is the town just after this first sealed cave, there is a guy. If you talk to him, he says something about wanting to seek his fortune on Mount Saber, and will then leave the bar and go to seek his fortune. And we'll run into him later. I imagine, again, assuming everyone remembers, we should see that shortly. Alright, it looks like now Mashima has also made it through the sealed cave and is on his way to their ski free. Be free, ski free. And we'll check in on him later. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen to ski free.
That's right. He wanted some tips on some riches up on the mountain.
So there's a question in chat about what sword we're using. That is still to be determined. We're going to close that off at around the 40-45 minute mark, depending on how things are going in the run. And at that time, we'll let the runners know in the race time chat, and we'll lock it in. But you still have time to donate. At the moment, it looks like Water is in the lead. There's details in chat, but yes, certainly, if you want to change that, feel free to drop a donation.
Yeah,
I will note briefly that Water is winning by a lot. Water's winning by $60 right now over Wind.
and none of the runners wanted water, I believe.
Yes. So here's my explanation of the different swords for Tower. If you want to see sort of default strats and also get eye strain from flashing lights, you donate for Sword of Thunder. Don't do that. If you want to see like sort of the default good fast strats, the Sword of Fire is the one you want to donate for. If you want to see an unusual strat that is still quite good and executed well, the Sword of Wind is what you want. And if you want to see the runner suffer, Sword of Water is the thing to donate for.
Yeah, the Sword of Water, you know, it's because of how the level 3 attack works. You sort of get this like circular spiral burst of stuff, and it's really good on the boss, the main boss that is weak against the Sword of Water. It's very good in that fight. So good on the robots in the tower that just get blown all around and mostly into you. So you take damage, and you take a lot of damage because we have a max scaling flag on, where no matter how high of a scaling you get as far as collecting key items, the enemies in the tower will always be at the max scaling and power level.
So something interesting that's going on right now, all three of our runners are currently in Mount Saber West. And Mount Saber West has walls that can be broken by the Sword of Water. That's what it's been randomized to. Now, they don't have the Orb of Water, so they have to use the Sword Charge glitch to actually break open those walls, which means going through the entire dungeon without menuing. Because the way you set it up, you basically do a save and then reload your save. It has to do with having a higher level sword. I won't go too far into the details, but the point is, at any point you menu, you lose the sword charge glitch.
So I see Chris went up to get the tornado bracelet item first, but I think that that Mashama didn't, and now he's gonna go back around to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sho, I think, instead, he also did not get that item, and he went all the way back to town, and he's gonna come back into the mountain again.
Yeah. Now, something else interesting that happened here is they got a statue fairly early on. Or maybe it was in this spot. So I vetted the seed earlier today. They got a statue very early on, and there was a lamp right next to Tornell at the top of the mountain.
Yes.
And Tornell wanted the flame bracelet. So, minor spoilers, but they're gonna run into this problem fairly soon. Yeah, Mashma just did it. That was the glowing lamp and the broken statue, which you can combine to fix them and make the flame bracelet. Which means
Nice.
you could have gotten Tornell's item at the top of the mountain on your first trip.
So let's see if Chris notices that, because Mashama actually, he didn't want to go back down the mountain. He didn't want to go to his menu, and oh no! Chris taking an unfortunate death here. And that's particularly unfortunate because there's no checkpoints on this mountain. So he lost his progress getting that item, getting that tornado bracelet item as well. And you can't even go to your menu to like use a antidote or anything. So, you know, getting poisoned is pretty much as good as so that really set Chris back.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over on Sho's side, Sho is doing a hell run. That is one of the settings that is on in this flag, is you might be forced to go through the swamp without the item that makes you immune to damage from the swamp. Now, with Refresh, that's not usually too big of a deal. You can just kind of hold down the heal button as you walk through and then pop a medical herb or two. Sometimes it gets tougher if you don't have Refresh, but Refresh was very early on in this seed. So it ends up not being too big of a deal.
Chris this time, he bought a couple medical herbs in town. I don't know if he considered that, he can't open the menu anyway to use them because he needs to stay on his water sword that's going to be glitched to go through here. And so it doesn't really help to have any healing items because you can't go to your menu to equip them anyway.
No, it sure doesn't. The sorcerer. Oh, by the way, there's Ski Free again on Monster's screen. He got a little tired treasure hunting, and he's taking a nap. It's just a nap. It's fine.
So the teleport spell that we got, besides being incredibly useful, it also lets you skip the trigger to go up the mountain here, and that gives us access to this part of the mountain. Unfortunately, what we're seeing on this mountain is the walls need the fire sword, which we don't have. So we're gonna have to find progress somewhere else.
So, would you like to know where that sort of fire is? Because I remember. I found it very memorable.
I think we'll probably see in not too much longer here. I mean, because there's not a whole lot else to check.
No, there's not much else left to check.
I'm guessing it's gonna have to be past this hell run. Oh no! Oh, I bet it's gonna be on Tornell at the top of the mountain.
We'll see.
And
Well, while y'all are seeing, would you like to hear another donation?
Absolutely. Now would be a great time for it.
All right, Warlinko5 donating $75. It says, here's the damage for the LADXR run plus some extra. Thanks for FFR for allowing the Rando to be showcased in this marathon. Let's finish off Random Start and start on Random Elevators for Metroid Prime 2. And if my math is correct, we're also starting on hat number 5, so one moment, please.
okay, so that was it. It was on the top of the
Sho
mountain.
just actually picked up that Sword of Fire, which I think puts him solidly in the league, as Mashima and Just Chris are still dealing with Saber West.
And Sho also did the Hell Run, which no one else did.
Alright. Mashima and Just Chris getting Sword of Fire at basically the exact same time. And now Mashima actually does have a slight edge here of having already got the warp point at Nadare's, so you can see he just teleported straight to Nadare's and is already ahead of Sho. Though not by much.
Now, since they actually have the power-up for the Sword of Fire, which they need for the walls here, they can go to their menu and switch around. So this kind of handicap of having to not go to your menu to keep the glitch activated is no longer in play, making things much easier for our runners. Boo. However, if they have to break out that water sword again, they still don't have any power-ups for the water sword. So suppose if the boss is weak to water, they could be stuck using that.
You'll see Chris actually did a preemptive sword charge glitch because he doesn't know what the walls are made of yet. So, just in case I need Sword of Water here, I'll set this up. And then he'll get to the first wall and realize he didn't need to, and no harm, no foul there. That can definitely be a good trick sometimes when you're doing these seeds with sword charge glitch when it matters in logic.
Yeah, you can always go to your menu and switch, but you can only do the sword charge glitch when you need to be able to pause and save your game. So you need to be in some sort of town or outer world area where you can actually save your game in order to activate the glitch.
Alright, so we've just got all three runners at various different points in Saber North. Looks like Mashima is near the top at this point. Coming up on the prison cells.
Pretty close race, actually.
Yeah, partially because there hasn't been really a ton of space to diverge here. Our runners have basically done everything that's available to them at this
So
point.
there hasn't been a lot of divergence.
Yeah.
But we saw a couple deaths on Chris. We saw the Hell Run from Sho, and the late start from Mashama, and it sort of all evened out.
Yep. There was, in fact, a key in the key to prison spot. One of the settings that's on in this flag set is unidentified key items. So all of the keys are named differently so that you don't know, you'll pick up a flute, an instrument, but you don't know which flute it is. You'll pick up a key and you don't know which key it is. That said, context can probably tell you that it's gonna be the key to prison.
Yeah, so the key to prison opens this door right behind the boss. And in the base game, the plot here is that the bad guys have like captured the people in the starting village and forced them to work on the mountains. And this is where they're being imprisoned, and you would talk to the elder there if you were, and also you would see all of the people stuck in the town. The starting town of Leaf would be totally empty, and then they would come back here. But so we saw a pretty convenient item on this spot just past the boss. It's gonna make things a little easy here.
Yeah, we've got a warrior ring on the way out of Saber North.
Sho's gonna be particularly happy about that. We sometimes call it the show rings. Sho just likes that warrior ring so much. There is sort of there is a problem here though, for Sho at least, because if you like the warrior ring, great, but you need to equip the speed boots most of the time in order to be competitive in a race, because they make you go faster, and that's much more important.
Yep, it turns out in a race setting, the speed boots are just the best thing you could be doing 90% of the time, where the other 10% is boss fights.
Yeah, it is still convenient. You can put it on in a boss fight. You can put it on in like a hallway with a bunch of enemies and do some grinding. But almost all the time, you have to use your speed boots in order to keep moving fast.
We probably won't see any grinding in this seed in particular, mainly because one of the flags that is on for marathon safety mostly is fast experience scaling, and that combined with the Oops All Mimics, where you're going to get a bundle of experience every time you open a chest. I would expect our runners to be somewhat overleveled by the end of this, honestly.
Okay, so Sho takes down the boss and goes through the door here. So we have all our runners through the mountain now.
It looks like so Mashima and Just Chris have both done the rage check and checked in with Messia.
Wow.
It looks like Just Chris immediately went back to Portoa to get the 2 items that are now in the waterway, one of which is flight, whereas Mashima is checking the Portoa side caves.
Now, at this point, I'm not sure what flight gets you. You can go to Joel. We can't do there. We can't go to Evil Spirit Island.
Yeah,
We can fly to Swan.
I think all it gets you is the Joel and Swan warp points. I don't think it gets you any checks.
Wait, do they have... Oh, that's recover. That's not paralysis, right? So
Correct.
they actually can't do anything. Yeah, if they had paralysis, they'd be able to do a trade-in here if they had the right item. But I don't think they even have that.
Yeah, I think the only key item they have is a flute, and one of the flags it's on is Vanilla Dolphin, which means they have to do the Fisherman trade-in after healing the dolphin before being able to use the shell flute at all. So even if that flute is the shell flute, it's not going to do them any good.
Still, Chris did get some useful warp points. Meanwhile, Mashama working his way through the fog lamp cave. There's 4 items in here.
3 of them are very early on, and the 4th one is a long ways into the cave at the very end. Looks like Sho has also done the rage check, went into Carissa Plant, found that it was wind walls, and so he couldn't make any progress, and then teleported back to Portilla, and is going to do the checks behind the checks in the waterway, like we saw Just Chris do.
Oh, and we got word that there's a bow in one of these caves. We need all 3 bows to finish this game. So, I don't think... Have we seen it in the Fog Lamp Cave yet?
We have not.
No. Okay, so that means it must be in the Carissa Plant Cave, which we can't get into. And Chris is the only one who's got that information so far.
Yep.
We also saw... What were the other items we saw? Did we see change in...
Maybe? I forget. I think we might have.
Either in the waterfall cave, or... So... Chris is going to be able to get all the stuff in this cave, because he had the Flute of Lime, and he had with flight, he was able to fly across that river, instead of having to walk all the way around, which makes collecting all those items a lot easier.
So, change was in Fog Lamp, which is why Mashma is now flying out across the ocean to go to Swan and beyond.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Just Chris is heading into that same cave, and Sho is making a detour to go check this flute to see if it's alarm flute, and it is not. We know it is actually the Flute of Lime. And yeah, we can see Just Chris just picked up change there in that first check. So it's interesting here, doing this with the hint, where you know change is going to be your way to progress through the sea. You now have a whole bunch, the entire back half of the game basically open to you with change and flight. But you also know that there's a bow somewhere in the Portoa side caves. So you're kind of incentivized to clear Fog Lamp Cave anyways. Something you sometimes see in other situations is runners will get the first 3 checks in Fog Lamp Cave and then just abandon the last one because it's so far out of the way. This doesn't always pay off, but I think in this case, because you have the hint that there is a bow somewhere in these caves, I think you definitely full clear Fog Lamp Cave.
Mashama crossing the river, but he did not go to Waterfall Cave. I don't think there was anything else important in Waterfall Cave, but that hint was very important.
Yes, I think the hint was the only good thing to come out of Waterfall Cave.
That could come back to bite Mashama later if he clears like everything else before going back to Waterfall Cave, and Chris happens to find the other bows.
That said, for the moment, Mashama is ahead. And if it turns out that Mashama checks Carissa Plant before too late, basically, then it'll probably end up being fine for him. That said, Just Chris has finished clearing out Fog Lamp, and has learned that the bow is not there, and therefore must be in Carissa Plant. We've got Mashma doing Mount Hydra at the moment.
Mount Hydra has 4 items, and they can actually get everything on here because they've got flight and they've got the sword to break the walls. at the top of Mount Hydra is an item that you have to use flight to jump over a gap. And sometimes in other settings, you often end up having to come back here. And it can be really, really interesting if there's an item there. And there's one item at the very end of this dungeon that, no one wants to go all the way through. But we're going to be able to clear it all. So we'll see Mashama probably get all of that.
So interestingly, Chris did duck into Crysta Plant Cave, probably because of that bow hint. I know he normally really dislikes the entire Portoa side areas, but you have that hint for the bow. It's worth going to check out, and maybe you just never have to come back to this area. But he did get the information that no, you need Sword of Wind to be able to get through there. So
yeah,
nothing doing
yeah,
for
you gotta
now.
check that.
And now that getting that warp point to Swan actually it paid off a little bit there, in that it was a much faster much faster trip to get back to the relevant part of the map. We've got Psycho Armor just before the summit, which is...
We'll add some safety here.
Yeah, first piece of armor or shield they've gotten, so that's nice. Meanwhile, it looks like Chris is going straight into the front of Goa, setting up the Shadowrun Massacre, and then going to try to break open this wall, which he can. And... broke the wall and is immediately leaving to go fight Motto 1.
So the first chest on Mount Hydra was the eyeglasses, and nothing else was really a big deal.
Oh, it looks like, right, this is another one of our donation incentives, is we're reenacting the Stom versus Motto fight. This is how Stom died. Which is apparently Motto running away from Stom, which is impressive, honestly.
Oh, and then getting... We did say that you actually had to take a... But wait! Okay. I think it was the Flash...
Opal statue, invincibility.
Another
Second opal statue. Apparently Stom's really resilient, just not very good at doing any damage. Third time's the charm, third time's the charm.
Meanwhile, Mashama deciding he's gonna go knock out a different boss. And this is another required boss that's in the pyramid down here.
And
I mean,
Sho is
you have
making
to
his
do
trip
eventually.
across the ocean.
So definitely a good play.
Looks like Chris made short work of Motto there and was rewarded with an orb of water for his trouble. Which I believe means they now have an orb for every sword, so we probably aren't going to see any more sword charge glitches. Except maybe for a bracelet for a boss fight later on. Alright. Mashma's flame bracelet made very quick work of Dragon 1. And this is good. We actually have some divergence now between the runners. Things really opened up after they picked up change, and so there is a lot to go and see. Mashma headed down to Portoa to get some useful information. So he went to go check on the fisherman and found out two things. One, the flute that he has is not the shell flute, because if it was, the fisherman would be there in his house. Two, the fisherman wants a lamp for trade. I believe he wants the fog lamp equivalent, which we've already seen and used one lamp, so if we find another lamp, we know it's the fog lamp. Looks like Chris has also decided to go over to Pyramid, while Mashma has made his way into Goa and is taking on Kelbesk 2.
I like this play. Although going out to the Gozinator. Anyway, getting Mado, so taking down Mado 1 is probably the safer play, just because you get some items that are always nice, and you can also do the, since we have change, you can do the Brokahana check. And I don't believe, have we seen that yet?
I believe Chris did it right away, and it was nothing special.
Oh, but we got paralysis somewhere.
Yes, paralysis was off of Dragon 1, so it looks like we're going to do the tag Kensu check, and Kensu wants that Carissa plant. That was at the end of Fog Lamp, and for your troubles, you get Sacred Shield, which is, it's a shield. Alright, looks like we've got Mashma now doing his part to reenact the Stom versus Motto fight. This time Stom has decided to only face forward, which is just the thing that happens with change sometimes. I don't actually know the details of what makes the sprite decide not to turn around, but... We've got Chris doing Kelbesk 1, we've got Show in Mount Hydra, seems like things might be kind of catching up to each other.
Yeah, Michelle getting some use out of that, that warrior ring, making some of these fights a lot easier. And since Chris did Mado 1, he's gonna keep going through the tower here, or through the Goa Fortress.
Yep.
I'd say that puts him in the lead a little bit here. Although,
yeah.
Mashama he went up Mount Hydra, which Chris didn't do, but there wasn't anything there except for the Psycho Armor, which would be pretty nice to have here on Motto 2.
Yep. The other thing to note, Motto 2 here is weak to wind. So we're on Tink strats for this, because we still have not found the Sword of Wind.
So the Tink strats make it so that you can beat any boss with any sword, but if you don't use the sword that they're weak against, it's only going to do 1 damage.
Yep, 1 damage per thing that hits them, which is why you see Just Chris pulling out the Warrior Ring and the Sword of Thunder, because then you can at least get 3 to 4 hits if you're standing in close range.
Yeah, so you're not only you can get 3 shots, so the 3 thunderbolts from your sword, but also the stab of your sword can also count as a hit. So you can get quite a few hits in, but each of them only does 1 damage. So he's going through all of his consumables pretty fast, trying to keep up here. And in order to hit all those projectiles hitting, you've got to get in pretty close.
Yeah, definitely not an easy feat, but it looks like he's pulled it off. Meanwhile, Mashima is in Oasis Cave.
Oh.
Looks like he just picked up the key to Stixie off of the Psycho Armor spot. And the last check here is an actual mimic.
So every chest is a mimic, but the ones that are real mimics drop money instead of a chest that actually gives an item. So
also worth noting, they respawn if you come back into the room. So sometimes you can use that if they're near a door to farm money, but hasn't really been necessary on these flags for the most part. Also, yes, hello, welcome Raiders. We are watching a 3-player race of Crystalis Randomizer. So, thanks for coming in. And actually, on that note, we do have an incentive open for which sword we're going to be using in the tower. We're going to be closing that incentive in, I want to say, around the 45-minute mark, so in about 8 minutes, 7.5. So if you want to influence that at all, now is the time to get those donations in.
Could we get an official total from our trackers on that?
Yes, thank
right.
you, Lord. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to jump in and give you the official numbers. So the numbers right now for your swords in order: water with 250, wind with 190. Well, you've got it posted up there. Fire with 50, and then thunder with 0.
Yeah. So as I was explaining early on in the run, if you want to see Ice Strain, vote for Thunder. If you want to see the sort of standard strats, vote for Fire. If you want to see a fun alternate strat executed well, vote for Wind. And if you want the runners to suffer, you vote for Water. Which I may be a bit biased, but I have put in a few donations towards the Sword of Water myself. Alright, meanwhile, we have... the only thing more fun than Tinking Motto 2, Tinking Sabera 2. We have another Wind Weak boss in Goa here. That Chris is very slowly working through. Unfortunately, Sabera 2 has the most hit points of any boss in the game. That Dinah, I guess, at the very end, but that hardly counts.
Not only does she have the hit points, she also has high defense, and so having to do this Tink strat, especially since we've got Warrior Ring and Thunder Sword, it makes it quite a bit easier. And if your level is lower, it's not even that much worse than what you'd be doing with non-Tink strat. So
True.
is the tinking in logic in this flag set, or is
Yes, it is
okay.
in logic.
So it could be required. It's not necessarily.
And actually, it looks like we have another tank boss in Carmine
On the other
as
side
well.
of Goa?
Yeah,
Wow.
looks like 3 of the 4 Goa bosses are weak to wind. So going in here without wind is a little tough.
Where could that Sword of Wind be?
So there is the chance that it's somewhere in Goa, of course.
I think that's, yeah. Except that we've checked, so between the runners here, they've checked quite a bit of the chests in Goa.
Oh, speaking of things that are weak to wind, the wall immediately after Sabera 2 is weak to wind. So
Oh no,
Chris
and
is
that's one
actually
we
going to
can't
have to...
tank.
Yeah, you're going to have to teleport out and then come back in the back. Or as it would appear, it looks like Chris is going to do Mount Hydra and or Stixie. Actually, I don't think Chris has the key to Stixie yet, so I think this is just Mount Hydra for Chris.
Yeah, the key to Stixie was in Carmine's basement, it looks like.
I think it was in Oasis Cave, but it was
okay.
still on that back approach.
Okay. So Chris is going to climb the mountain, and we know there wasn't a whole lot here, so this is going to give Mashama a little more of a lead.
Well, it would, except that I suspect that Mashama is busy making a donation to not have to do Sword of Water strats in the tower.
You are indeed correct. We have $100 from Mashima saying Sword of Wind, please.
I suppose I will let him have it and not fight it any further, but chat, don't let me stop you. Alright, Mashima is back on the run. It looks like Slime Kensu needs a statue that we do not have, so just going to move on past and is into the one part of Goa we haven't seen yet, which is Sabera's floor proper. There's another wall here that blocks an item that may or may not be breakable. Looks like it is not breakable. So, also weak to wind. And, we'll see if the... So, we know that Mashima is just going to pick up one item here. Let's see if it's, anything useful. Nope, just a magic ring.
Wow. So let's see. We got the key to Stixie though, so I bet there's gotta be something there.
Yeah, honestly, there aren't a lot of other places they could go at the moment, because they've done Pyramid, they've done, collectively, Oasis Cave, all the Portoa side caves that they're able to.
Mashama has never checked the waterfall cave though.
Right. So
Both of the others did.
Mashama doesn't know that... For all Mashama knows, that's where Sword of Wind is, but...
And it looks like he's gonna head into Stixie.
Meanwhile, Chris has teleported to Oasis. Sahara, heading towards Oasis. Sho is on Motto's floor, getting the handful of items there. Honestly, I think Goa had basically nothing in it, right? Like, I don't remember them picking up practically anything.
Yeah, pretty much. We didn't see. So I guess we still haven't broken that wall past Sabera on Sabera's floor. So that would be pretty cool if there was something there.
Yeah, but it won't lead to the Sword of Wind because we need the Sword of Wind to get there.
Now, as far as boss kills, I think so. We saw Chris beat Sabera 2. I don't think Mashama did Mashama fight Sabera 2?
No, I don't think Mashama has gone past Kelbesk going in the front.
Yeah.
So I think Mashama has only done Kelbesk and Carmine in Goa.
So if Mashama finds the Sword of Wind and is able to have a much easier fight against Mato 2 and Sabera 2, probably going to be a good big advantage for him.
Certainly could be, yeah. Let's see if that pans out. It looks like after clearing out Oasis Cave, just Chris is on his way to Stixie.
Oh, a flute. So that could be... it could be the dolphin, the shell flute for the dolphin, which would get us at the Evil Spirit Island.
I think it could be any of the flutes we don't have.
That's right. I mean, we've only seen one flute, which is the Flute of Lime.
Yeah, and all three of them would potentially open checks. Actually, the shell flute would also need the Fisherman Trade-in item, which I don't think we've seen yet.
The show's going for a tank fight on Sabera 2 here, but using the Fire Sword, okay, now he's realizing that the Thunder Sword's gonna be a little more efficient.
Yep.
This fight's particularly brutal without having barrier to be able to block the shots. It gets, you have to sort of just, in order to get close enough to use the multiple hits from the Thunder Sword, you kind of have to just face tank a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I will say, when I was vetting the seed earlier today, I just popped an opal and used the iframes.
Yeah, that's not a bad strategy.
Looks like Mashama is heading to the swamp and gonna go see if one of these flutes he has, which he still doesn't know what either of them are. He's gonna see if one of them is the insect flute. Now, one of the incentives we have is that we met is Tinking the Bug, which this would be the bug in question, but we do not have the insect flute to summon him yet.
Can I jump in briefly with a donation that is playing Sniper?
Yes, please, because we should cut that off right now.
All right, so $41 from Roland Whitetree that says, nope, we're using water.
So what's our final total then? Am I right that Sword of Water has won?
I would presume so. Let me see about refreshing just a moment. All right, so if these calculations on the page is correct, water has won by $1.
Okay, I have let the runners know.
Yep.
I'm sure Mashima is thrilled right now. I'm sure they all are. Yeah, so the final tally looks like was Sword of Water at $291, Sword of Wind at $290, Sword of Fire at $30, and Sword of Thunder at $0.
So Chris also wants to check to see if this flute is the shell flute or the insect flute. So he already has used the other flute. Mashama's still has that flute of lime in his inventory. He hasn't visited the waterfall cave.
See, we've caught up to the point in the setting where Mashama has gotten the news that he's supposed to use the Sword of Water, and he is trying desperately to drop it in the waterfall cave and just leave it there. Alright, and Just Chris has also confirmed that still doesn't have the shell flute either. Because once again, the guard there, or the fisherman, did not show up in his house. So this must be the alarm flute, and so it is. And the alarm flute gets us another flute. And Mashima has finally gotten the hint that there is a bow in one of the Portoa side caves, which he knows at this point is in Crysta Plant Cave.
Okay, so we know Chris went to the boat owner, and the boat owner was there, which means that flute is the shell flute. However, not having any trade-in items at all, he knows he's not going to be able to make that trade, so he's going to go and wake up the disciple to get another item. So, let's see what they have.
Survey says, hey, would you look at that? It's our fog lamp. So that alarm flute got us both halves of this fisherman trade, the flute and the lamp that we need. Which means we now have access to the ocean and to checking Evil Spirit Island. So Chris is going to take a short little boat ride here. Meanwhile, Mashima has finished up Waterfall Cave and is leaving... Not sure at the moment where he's going. Oh, he hasn't done the Stomp fight yet, so he's going to go do the Stomp fight because he went to Oak. Chris is making a point of saying that he remembers this because when we raced earlier this week, he forgot that check and it was a sword. And guess what?
And it's a good thing he remembered it, huh?
It's a sword. There is our Sword of Wind, ladies and gentlemen, which is now all 4 swords. Yeah,
I would have to say that getting that first puts Chris in the lead. we saw him go through Oasis Cave, right?
Yep.
So I think that he's got everything Mashama has, and he's got that sword now. So
I think you had to go through Oasis Cave. If I remember the logic, it's Oasis Cave had the key to Stixie.
that's right. Yeah.
Stixie had the alarm flute, and then alarm flute got you the shell flute and the fog lamp. Which, speaking of which, Mashima has just picked up the shell flute, part of that equation.
So with speed boots, flight, all 4 swords, and now we've got armor and a shield, so pretty well equipped, pretty good equipment. I think Chris is gonna blast through everything else pretty fast.
Yeah, we have 0 bows, and we don't have the insect flute yet for that incentive, but...
Oh, there's one.
Nope, that's a statue.
Oh, it's okay.
It went by so quickly, but I saw he had a statue in his inventory when he paused.
And, I mean, I guess... So we got a hint that there's a bow in the Carissa Plant Cave. I mean, there's a chance that the other chest in the Carissa Plant Cave could also be a bow. I mean, there's nothing... No reason it couldn't be.
I think... Has Chris done Carmine's area yet? I don't think so, right? I don't think he actually...
Oh, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe he just did... He did the Oasis Cave and then noped out.
Yeah.
Without going to Carmine's area. But he did beat Sabera too. So he's...
Yeah, I think Chris is ahead because he's got Motto 2 and Sabera 2, where Mashima has Carmine.
Yeah. Yeah, so but that does even things out a little bit more.
Yeah. Alright, our first item in Sabera's Fortress is... Barrier! Would have been nice to have earlier, but you'll take it when you can get it.
Yeah. But meanwhile, Sho's working through this seed. He beat Carmine with the Tink, and beat Sabera too. So he's got a few bosses down. Not that far behind these the 2 leading.
Yeah, it depends on how long it takes him to get the stuff from Stixie. Oh, and there is a bow for Chris. Yeah. I mean, there's not that many places left for them to be in this seed. Our runners have checked most of the dungeons. There's like a smattering of trade-ins and like an abandoned check in Goa or 2.
Another one!
There's another one.
And with the 3rd bow, so Chris is essentially go now.
Yeah.
Because he knows where that last bow is.
Yep.
I think it's almost a check mark for Chris if he can, unless he has some issues somewhere here.
Well, it depends on how practice he has at tinking the bug, and also if he can find the insect flute to tink the bug. Because our good chat did donate for that.
It's a good point.
We have Sabera 1 also weak to wind, but you have to have Sword of Wind to be able to get here, so that fight ends very quickly. You're rewarded with a tornado bracelet, so you've got most of the bracelets now.
Mind if I jump in with another donation?
Please do.
All right, Chadbert donating $75. Put this toward the Z2R incentive and any extra toward the next unmet incentive. Good luck, Sonny, on the Z2R run, especially now that Death Mountain is vanilla shuffled. Sorry I couldn't be there to do this as a race, but you've got this. Thank you very much, Chadbert, and that means, if I'm not mistaken, hat number 7, so incoming.
Okay, so...
It does in fact look like Chris is heading to Carmine's basement. Carmine's floor.
Right, yeah. Mashaba failing to drop that water sword.
He just keeps trying, but Well, it turns out those handles are pretty sticky. Once you pick up the sword, can't put it down.
Yeah. So we're gonna have all the bosses down on Chris's side and all the bows, but we're missing that one key item, which is a key item because of our donation incentive, the insect flute. No one has found it yet.
Go collect the third bow.
That's true, yeah. And I did send a little reminder in our race chat here, so the runners have been reminded that they need to find that flute.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mashma has picked up his second bow and is about to go beat up Sabera 1. And Sho has made it into Stixie, so has the item that begins this chain that ends in the Sword of Wind.
Chris making super short work of Carmine, having the actual sword to use the weakness rather than having to, tink them down.
Not only the sword, but even the matching bracelet. Alright, looks like Chris is going to walk out, presumably to go check the items, check Slime Kensu and the items on Sabera's floor, which he hasn't been able to get to yet.
Yes, Tornell. The Tornell check on the mountain was pretty critical early. It had a sword that they needed to get break the walls in Saber North and get anywhere out there. Yeah. Okay, Chris remembering this wall in Saber's area. Let's see what's there.
Love pendant.
That was for Slime Kensu, or which trade-ins haven't we done yet?
Given that Chris just equipped it and is stabbing now, that must be a Rils's trade-in.
Okay. Well then.
Joe is doing his fisherman trade-in. Gonna start up this shell flute and get that going.
Mashama heading into Mado 2 and Sabera 2, he's going to take them down a lot faster since he's got the weakness sword.
Yep. Alright, Chris is on his way to pick up his third bow.
So, Mashama probably reset out of there because he took a bunch of hits while experimenting with different swords. So he wanted to kind of like save his HP and resources. And so he figured out the weakness sword, and then he can kind of equip that sword and even charge the sword before the fight and get a quick super level 3 shot off as the fight starts. You can kind of get a little bit of an advantage by restarting the fight there.
Oh, did you see what Chris just picked up?
Oh, that could be it.
I think it has to be it. Hasn't
to be
used?
Right,
yeah, he's used the other 3.
Yeah, okay, so there we go.
So I think that means Chris is just in go mode now.
That's right, yeah, as soon as he picks up this last bow.
Yeah, okay, no mode, technically.
Yeah.
Yep, and there's the bow at the end of Crystal Plant Cave, as foretold. And here we go. It's time to tink the bug.
And Chris, not wanting to take off those speed boosts because he moves faster, even though it means that he's like taking tons of damage in the swamp here, he's gonna equip Refresh just so that he can have the speed boost speed.
Yeah, I gotta say, tinking the bug at 45 scaling is kind of difficult, honestly.
Yeah, this is gonna be pretty brutal. Let's see how much HP they've got. So there is a trick. Let's see if Chris realizes it.
Okay, it looks like wind is the weapon to tink with.
Well, okay, so there's, I guess, well, I guess we didn't really talk about, you know, how, what sort of tink fight you've got to have, but, because there's a few different ways you could cheese this. One is to use flight and actually just fly up, but it looks like instead he's going to use barrier. Because flight would be a little cheesy. But still, I guess with barrier, it's probably just about the same.
Yeah,
He's going to be going through all his magic rings.
Yeah, the trick to the tink fight here is that even though it looks like that insect has a gigantic hitbox, it's actually fairly narrow in the center of the bug itself. And in particular, basically, it's where that stream of projectiles is coming out. Alright, looks like...
Except that
we have in fact switched to flight.
Yeah, but the fly stabbing doesn't hit. You've got to use shots. So if you use flight and warrior ring, it will work.
Yeah. Unfortunately, these level 3 shots, they do 4 damage instead of just 1, which is technically an improvement, but you're spending more MP on it. And you have a limited amount of MP.
So if we can find where magic rings are sold, they could buy some, but they're probably pretty expensive.
And to be fair, they probably, at this level, they probably only need... Well, I was about to say they probably only need 1 for tower, but then I remember they have to use Sword of Water for tower, so who knows?
That's right. And there goes the last opal. And we didn't really say whether they have to actually, like... It would be in poor spirit to, you know, reset and get all your opals back. You know, even though they don't... We know that whatever they get from this, they don't need.
Yeah.
But it would still be in poor spirit to, you know, reset this fight away. Oh wait, oh, he used another sword, but okay. And Chris, in good spirit, he's gonna restart the fight.
I think what that was is Chris looking to see if any of the other swords tink or if he was locked into wind. And as it turns out, yes, the insect is only strong against one element. So even when weaknesses are randomized, there's only one element you can tink the bug with.
So the way the randomizer works with weaknesses is that it takes the number of swords out of the 4 that each enemy is weak to, and it shuffles them. So if an enemy is only weak to 1 sword, then that 1 sword will be randomized. So they'll still be weak to 1 sword, but it'll be a random sword. In this case, he's only strong against 1 sword, so that 1 sword is randomized.
Meanwhile, Mashima seems to have forgotten about the hint about the third bow, or
did he
is
ever
putting
go
it...
into Waterfall Cave? I think
he did.
He did, yeah. He had to have gotten that hint.
Yeah, he did eventually get that hint, but I think maybe he's avoiding it because he knows it's where the bow is, but he's looking for the insect flute, and hasn't considered the possibility that the insect flute is right before bow in Crystalis Cave. All right, looks like he's heading there now, and he'll find it on the way. So for anyone curious, the way that hint in Waterfall Cave works is there is a priority of hints. It's going to tell you about bows first, then swords. I think it's swords and magic, then any unique item, and if they can't find any of those, it'll tell you there's just some treasure over there, which actually means it's all junk. But it also tells you about the item furthest away from the start, which means the first 3 items in Foglamp Cave are the closest, then the 2 items in Crystal Plant Cave, and then the item at the end of Foglamp Cave. So, now the fact that you got hinted about a bow means you don't really know much about what else is in those caves, which is why you might not have considered that, oh, there could also be the insect flute down here, which Mashima has just picked up. And Sho, by the way, is on his way to go tink the bug. So we may soon find ourselves in a situation where all 3 runners are tinking the bug at the same time.
Yep, because Chris has finished the tink fight.
Alright. That puts Chris solidly in the lead, because honestly, tinking the bug is harder than anything the end of the game is going to throw at them. Even with having to use Sword of Water and Tower, I think tinking the bug is more difficult at this scaling.
Yeah. It was definitely pretty rude of you to give them a seed where you had to fight the insect at near max scaling. Not only...
To be fair to them, I did it myself too, so okay. I suffered with them.
Not only does it take a ton of hits here, but they are also forced to deal with this, the insects that are flying through here. The real boss here is that insect that just flies by and shoots at you and just snipes you and does a ton of damage.
Yeah. Alright. Chris has started his way through Crypt. Mashima is starting his insect tink fight. Looks like Mashima took 1 attack at the bug, found out that that wasn't the sword to use for the fight, and reset. Maybe should have checked the other swords first, but it looks like he's going to start with Sword of Wind, and so it should work out this time.
Yeah, good spirit on, on making sure that every single hit is a tink. Oh no!
Can't use Sword of Fire. There is 1 sword you are allowed to use, and honestly, it's probably the worst one to do a tink fight with, too.
Oh, yeah.
I think all the runners are going to hate me after this one. I might get run out of the community. This is the last time you hear from me. I'm sorry, guys.
So yeah, Chris said that the strat Chris used was pretty brilliant, using Warrior Ring with the with refresh and just staying on the side.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing as well. It's very tight positioning, and you have to watch out for that for those extra insects because they will murder you.
And it looks like Mashama getting the same idea. And yeah, there's only 1 or 2 pixels on each side.
Alright. Meanwhile, here is one of the things you donated for, Sword of Water in the Tower. The reason why no one wants to use Sword of Water, you kind of saw a little bit there, is you have these pulsating waves of these snowflakes that go in and out and in and out. And the thing is, because the center is near where you fire it off, it's very easy to accidentally have the enemies dodge in between the out waves and then get dragged back in by the in waves and crash directly into you. Which is why, generally, No one likes Blizzard Bracelet.
Mashima just going through his opals on this tank fight.
Yeah. It does definitely help to have some opals left when you get here. I did not when I did this. If you go, I'm gonna share my times after this in the Discord, and there's a fully 15 minutes between I get my last bow and I beat Dragon 2, and most of that was spent on this stupid bug fight.
So Chris working his way through here. You know, if you've seen high-level play from guys like... I mean, Chris is the winner of the tournament. You know, he had to be just the best to pull that off. And so you know that his strats are just top-notch. And he's struggling through the tower with this water sword. It's so nice to see. So thank you for everyone who donated for that.
I think using Blizzard Bracelet is probably the 5th worst strat you could use, where the best strats are like Fire, Wind, Thunder, or Warrior Ring and Purple Tunnel. Like,
so, and not only that, he's realized that he's short on magic rings here. He's only got 2 left, and he wants to save some MP for Dinah because Barrier makes that fight a lot easier. So he's having to like really save his MP here. He's just getting tons of lag. He's getting all these robots getting all around him, giving him some business.
Yeah, I will say having to do the Tink fight followed by Blizzard Tower back to back is kind of nasty. So good job, chat. Good job.
Yeah. Now, luckily, when the robot goes down the escalator like that, they despawn. They don't actually despawn, but they take themselves out of the set of enemies that are required to move up the tower, and so that's actually something you can like do if you aim for it.
You just got to be a little careful. I have had on one rare occasion where I did that to one of the gold robots. Got the white robot spawned, and then while I was fighting the white robots, the gold robot climbed back up the stairs, and I had to deal with them anyway.
That's right. Yeah, they don't despawn. They just sort of leave the that list of enemies that has to be killed.
All right.
And if they come back up, they're back on the list.
Mashima is almost done with this insect fight. It looks like he has switched over to using the hazmat suit because he's worried about dying at this point in the fight, which I can totally understand. Sometimes slow and steady.
Whereas Chris kept 1 opal, and though he just used it now. I believe that was the last floor.
Yep. All right. Chris has made it through tower, so we should see him finishing very shortly here. Dinah is, compared to everything else they just went through, Dinah is a joke.
Especially with this setup, with Barrier and like everything.
One hit point. Can he do it?
Oh,
Mashima has tanked the bug.
Alright, Mashawa gets through his tank fight.
Meanwhile, blink and you'll miss it, and Dinah will be dead on Chris's side. And there he goes. Just gotta survive this final volley while Dinah finishes exploding, and Chris is done. Has won our race with a final race time of 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 23 seconds. GG.
GG's. And that is a pretty amazing time for this flag set. Especially, like, not only... I mean, we did a race on this flag set a few days ago, and the fastest time, I think, was like 10 minutes past that.
Yeah.
And we didn't even tink the bug.
Yeah.
So this was also tinking the bug, which took quite a while, so...
GG, Chris. We are now joined by Chris. How you doing?
Oh, wait.
What did you think of that
times
siege?
how many times did I get poisoned? It's like, oh, I have everything I need. Oh no, I'm missing a flute for a bug.
Yeah. Thankfully, the flute was on the way to the last bow, so
Yeah.
that was
I
also
had
one
to
of the things
figure
I was
out-
looking for when betting the seed, is to make sure you weren't going to just have to hunt forever for that insect flute.
I don't know, if someone forgets to check behind the cave where the queen's hiding in the water, they might miss something important.
You like that, did you?
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So many fruit, the 2 fruit of rapuns somewhere, stomped on both.
Yep.
Oh, that was fun.
GG.
Thank you.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of back and forth in that race. I think it ultimately came down to you and Mashma each did some of the Goa bosses without the Sword of Wind, because 3 out of 4 of them were weak to wind.
Yeah, that was
But
some
you
garbage.
did the 2 longer ones, and Mashma did Carmine. But then when you were getting out, you got the Sword of Wind like just barely ahead of Mashma, and therefore when you went back to clean up bosses, you had a much quicker time because you only had
Yeah.
to do 1 boss.
I should have gone back for the bow first. Then I would really been go mode instead of looking at all the items in the Boa Fortress. So what was the route to get the was it the lamp and the flute? for
Yeah,
the
so it was once you got to the back half of the game, the key to Stixie was on the Psycho Armor spot in Oasis Cave. Then the viola, which was the alarm flute, was in Stixie. And that led to both the Fisherman Trade-In and the Shell Flute.
Oh, that's right. What did Mashima just do? Is he still looking for a bow?
No, he should be done. He
Yeah, he for some
I
reason.
think he might be memeing, honestly. He took some deaths to some warlocks, it looks like. Joe, meanwhile, just finished up his bug tank, so all 3 runners have completed the Tink the Bug challenge, which is fantastic. Well
I didn't
done,
realize
everyone.
You couldn't stab the bug, so I couldn't go up there flying with my gas mask on.
Yep.
I guess I could have used the warrior ring up there instead of from the ground.
You can. It's kind of doesn't make it's probably about the same. Actually, probably easier if you're flying, but then you're draining your MP.
Yeah.
And
Draining
you
your
can't-
MP and not healing.
That's right. Yeah.
I had to die 3 times to stomps. I had 2 opals fighting Mato.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, I think everyone actually did that.
Okay, so now
Alright. Mishima is clearly just memeing at this point. Well, this is giving Sho a chance to catch up. I think Mishima is trying to actually kill a warlock, which is something you basically never do. Looks like he's not tinking them because they're taking more than 1 damage at a time, but
yeah, it's not a whole lot. So,
oh,
Sho
is that butterfly
did
gonna
actually
ruin his
start-
day?
he's just practicing for the tower.
Paralyzed because he's got the sacred shield on. Okay, he has killed a warlock. He's going for the second one. There we go.
So Sho started that insect fight earlier, but did a slower fight because he used the tornado bracelets shots instead of the warrior ring. But yeah, now now we're about even coming in here.
Huh.
Alright, we
Those
got...
early speed boots, that's why I kept getting poisoned. I'm not used to running so fast, and so I'm just hitting all the enemies.
I do think that is what helped. Despite that very late game bug tink. I think that early speed boots helped keep this underestimate.
Yeah.
Alright, we've got Sho doing classic Storm Bracelet strats on Dragon 2, and looks like Dragon 2 is down. And we've got Mashima. Looks like he's gearing up to use the Blizzard Bracelet for,
He's trying to drop his sword.
really wants to drop that Sword of Water. Was really upset to hear about the incentive win, which,
Toss it off the cliff.
by the way, that incentive closed at the last minute, and Sword of Water won by $1. Now, as much as we make fun of the Blizzard Bracelet in Tower, it's actually a pretty good choice for Dragon 2, because the thing that makes Blizzard Bracelet bad, usually, is its erratic movement causes enemies to get pushed into you. But against bosses, it doesn't move bosses, so it ends up being just fine against bosses. Speaking of Blizzard Bracelet in Tower, it looks like Sho has resorted to using the Warrior Ring rather than actually go through the level 3 charge, which... fair.
Ooh, this man.
It's, you know, it might be easier than the ring just because you can kind of keep the enemies moving in one direction, but I mean you can see that with 3 robots, if you don't kind of like work at it, they can get around you, and they move around. It's hard to kind of like get all of them in one shot, which is you can do with the thunder sword, but not with any of the other ones.
That's okay. I approve of what Sho is doing more than I approve of what Mashima is doing, which is just using Sword of Wind anyways. I think he's given up. Well, you saw at least one person go through with actual Blizzard Bracelet strats, so at least there's that. And I do think the Tornado Bracelet strats are also pretty cool. They're something you don't see as often. Oh, never mind.
Oh, okay.
Mashama has reset. I'm gonna stop guessing what Mashama is actually doing, because I clearly don't know.
Fighting for third.
Well, I think he might have just got it, honestly, because I think Sho is gonna get through here fairly quickly. Unless Sho takes a death, I think he will probably pull this one out ahead of Mashima. Though not by much. Well, okay, I say that. It depends on how much time Mashima spends trying to throw the Sword of Water off of the tower. Which, I mean, if that's the case, we could be here all night, folks.
I'm surprised no one went for stab strats.
I think you're the only one that is, charitably, I'm going to say practiced enough to do the stab strats.
Hey, if you pop an opal, you can stab all you want.
Imagine having opals left. I know when I did the seed, I spent them on tinking Goa bosses so that I could just tink them that much faster. Which made me really regret not having any left when I got to the bug. Alright. It looks like Sho is through the tower. And is gearing up to fight Dinah. Meanwhile, Mashima is on second floor, it looks like.
Yep.
He's blowing through his MP pretty fast, though.
Mainly because he only has Fruit of Powers, it looks like, and not actual magic rings. He must have bought a bunch after the insect fight. Meanwhile, Sho has made quick work of Dyna and is finished with an official time of 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 35 seconds. GG, Sho. Alright. Mashima is wrapping up this tower. We're now on the 3rd floor, so we won't be here much longer. I think Mashima will have enough MP to finish this out. You only need about 100 MP for Dyna, especially at this level. And you can just run barrier the entire time.
Yeah, you can even cheese it with less than that if you kind of only turn on your barrier when you're gonna get shot.
Yeah, but with 100 MP, it's basically free. You get to hold down barrier the entire fight. With less than that, yeah, you gotta actually time your hits, choose your moments, but... GG's, Sho.
GG's. Oh my god, thanks. M Toki. Oh my god.
So, how'd you like that seed?
I mean, it was fun until the bug fight.
That's how I felt about it, vetting it, yeah.
Oh my god. If I hadn't died on the bug, I probably would have saved 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. That'll happen.
Oh man. Oh, but other than that, I think the seed was really good. I think I made good decisions-ish.
And we didn't forget the spot behind the palace in the water this time.
Did not forget that.
Yep. Which is good. Had something important. Alright, Mashima is making quick work of Dyna here. And we should be done here shortly. And there we go. Looks like Mashima has finished with an official time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 5 seconds. GG.
GG's.
Hey, look, he managed it. He actually got the Sword of Water out of his inventory.
Yeah, when I saw that, you'd posted that please use the water sword, I was like, oh no.
GG's, Mashima.
GG's.
What have I done to you, Code, to give us that seed?
Now,
What did I do? Whatever I've done, I'm sorry. I am sorry from the depths of my soul.
you made me
I'm
play
so very
RE6.
sorry.
Oof.
Okay.
I have a clip that I can share if you really want to know.
I'm not sorry for that clip. That was worth it. This seed was that was not justified for this seed though.
Ah, come on, hour and a half. Underestimate. Actually, I don't remember what your estimate was, but
2 hours just in case.
oh yeah, underestimate. You're fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I gave you speed boots right at the beginning to make sure everything went nice and fast.
That was the worst thing ever. All of my
I knew that would
equipables
annoy
are
you
dead.
specifically.
Every enemy is running at me at 300 miles an hour. If you notice, anytime I tap flight, immediately there would be an enemy for me to land on. I'd release the button and go, oh no, and then try and press, and there's no coming back.
Nope.
Oh my god. And the bug. Why? Out of all the swords it could tank on.
The worst sword at near max scaling. Now, I will say, just to be fair, when I vetted the seed, I did tink the bug myself as well. So I also went through that. That said, I didn't know what sword was going to win in the tower, so I used fire strats. Also went through that. That said, I didn't know what.
There is no justification for this. And who sniped me?
I mean, I gave you a chance. I died on the bug.
No, someone sniped the sword. I almost had wind sword.
You want to hear what the final totals were for the sword donations?
Yes.
Yes.
It was Sword of Thunder $0, Sword of Fire $30, Sword of Wind $290, Sword of Water $291.
Oh,
You wool
man.
and white tree? What did I do to you? I don't even recognize your name. How have I hurt you?
All right, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having us. Thank you to the Final Fantasy Randomizer community for having us at your marathon.
Thank you
For
so
anyone.
much.
Anyone that wants to check out Crystalis Randomizer, we have a Discord. I think it's... Is that the one? Yeah. There's a link in the chat there. Definitely come hang out. We're super happy to welcome anyone that wants to try it out. It's a very fun randomizer. Lots of options. Lots of ways to... not all seeds are going to be this cruel, and... there's a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, this seed was vetted specifically for pain. They're not always like this.
Yeah, just be afraid if I roll something for you and tell you that I've played it first.
That's good.
As Rose mentioned in chat, we are insomniacs, so if you're doing the randomizer and you ever have any issues, just throw something in our little help channel. 24/7, someone will answer immediately. I can guarantee someone will always be awake at any hour of the day to answer your questions for you.
True.
We're weird like that for sure.
All right. I think that wraps it up for us. Karant, why don't you take it away?
Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for such a great run and for soliciting donations that sniped each other and all sorts of crazy shenanigans in Crystalis. Anybody who can do that randomizer well, I very much respect, because I could barely play the base game well when I played it for the first time a few years ago. So kudos to all of y'all, and thank you very much for running with us, Mashima, Shofu, Kamachi, and just Chris. And thank you to Code Gorilla and Axeman on commentary. That was fantastic. Thank you all very much. Y'all have a great night.